Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Archive, where we strive to tell interesting LARP stories and preserve LARP history. I am St. Godric, and this evening I am joined by Sir Fuzz, a Flame Knight. Now, Master Rose, correct?
Yes, and crown.
And crown. I was about to say, I thought I saw the crown on there, out of the Kingdom of Crystal Groves. How you doing this evening, sir?
Good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I am not doing too bad at all. It's my favorite time of the year. I love fall. I love Halloween.
Oh, me too. It's been in the 50s all day, and I love it.
Yep. Perfect. So I don't think, at least to my knowledge, I've never met you in person, or if I have, it was just in passing. So give me a little bit of your background, your story. What LARPs have you played? How'd you get into LARPing in general? What's your background in this game?
So I started I can never remember if it was 2003 or 2004. I was walking around high school back in St. Louis, Missouri, wearing some chainmail that I got at the Renaissance Fair there, because I was that kid that would wear chainmail to school. Oddly enough, I never got any flack for it. All the kids were just like, "That's really cool. Can I touch it?" But I was wearing it around kind of before school started, like before the year started, getting the theater department ready for stuff. And I was walking down one of the halls. I just hear like this, "Psst, hey kid, come here." And I look around and there's this teacher sticking his head out of a window, which in hindsight is a lot creepier than it was at the time. But I was with my other friend, Nate Lewis, who ended up playing Amtgard as well. And it was a new teacher to the school that year. He saw me wearing my chainmail and was like, "Hey, come in my room." I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So I went in there and he had like a full chainmail, like writing hallmark on the wall that he had made. Wow. And, some other chainmail pieces he had done. And we just, he was like, obviously I'm wearing chainmail. He makes chainmail. We started talking about stuff. And among other things, he got us into Amtgard because he did play Amtgard in St. Louis for a long time. He, unfortunately, was just kind of starting to get out of it. But luckily, he met us and several, there was maybe like a group of maybe 10 of us at first that started playing out of that high school. And so, we got going, made our first set of illegal weapons like everybody does. Then, read the rules, kept playing. I actually switched over to Bellegarth for a little bit. The park that was active in St. Louis at the time, Western Gate, I would see the politics going on there, and it was not something that looked enjoyable to me. So it kind of pushed me out of the game. And there was a cross gamer who was there from Bellegarth who was like, "Well, if you want to come somewhere where there's, no politics, it's just come to the field and fight, come on and try it." And so I did, and I enjoyed that. And I did that for a while. And then right before college, I ended up coming back to Amtgard and getting into a Beltline and getting into a fighting company, kind of that college transitional period, like maybe first year of college. Went off to college at Truman State University in northern Missouri. And I tried starting Amtgard Park there. Didn't really work. Oddly enough, I tried, it didn't work. After I left, they got a park there that got up to barony status.
Oh, wow.
So
that's cool.
Good for them. But I did start a just kind of mixed rule set general boffer weapon fighting group. And we would pull like 20 plus people regularly fighting on the quad for a weekend. So the desire for fighting was there. And so I was like, well, we'll just go with this. And we had a good time. So for that period, I was more of just, I would come back for events like Knoblander and stuff like that. And that's kind of really where I got my start in service, was at those events, just because I was in the belt line of the people running them. After college, got back, kind of just started getting back into Amtgard regularly and decided, okay, the parks in St. Louis had kind of gone through a transitional period where one split off into another, and then the old one had a lot of problem players, and it folded and it got its contract pulled. So now there's just this one park, and the people there were the environment there overall was much more conducive to a setting I enjoyed. So I started running for office there, doing service there, getting back into the kingdom, doing more kingdom service. And then just, did that for, that was like 2009 is when I graduated from college, did that, and just kept having fun and doing stuff, working my way up from doing Monster Camp at Knoblanders to, the first time I ever ran gate was I ran gate for keep when we had like 650 people and up, that kind of stuff, helping run, food fight at keep, just, doing all sorts of stuff. And then eventually my wife got a job out in Pennsylvania. So in 2017, we moved out to Pennsylvania. Now I'm in Crystal Groves. I've held Kingdom. I've been Monarch in both those kingdoms, Tal'Dagor and Crystal Groves. And just, I just keep doing service stuff, I enjoy the whole game. It's like one of those, like, what do I do? Well, I do service. I like to fight, not to like the Sword Knight Warlord thing, but I enjoy a good fight. I try to be, I like to say that I like to try to be a mid boss. I'm never going to be the top, but yeah, if I can be a roadblock on somebody's way, to get better and then beat me and keep going to Warlord, cool. I'm happy with that. I love to do crafting. I started doing chainmail and I've gotten into blacksmithing and I've been working on that, wanting to get to Serpent Knight. I still do service. When I was Monarch of Crystal Groves, one event, I was the Kingdom Monarch, autocrat for the event, and in the process of buying a house at the same time. So that was a busy event for me.
I bet, man, that all over the place, it seems.
Yes.
I like players, or I like interviewing players who kind of have toes in a bunch of different areas of the game, because it's neat to get different perspectives from, I'm a pretty good fighter, but I'm also pretty good at A&S, and I'm pretty good at the, and kind of being all over the place instead of just hyper focused into one area.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, having been in the game for 17, 18 years and enjoying all the different aspects of the game, I have a lot of friends that are, higher up in the different aspects of the game. Like I know some of the newer warlords that TD has made are people that I've, been there since their first day or even before that. Like, do you know Big Head?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I went to middle school with him.
Cool.
So like I've known,
he's a good dude.
He is fantastic. I love that man. But
he's one of my favorite people to field against. Like he's a cool guy to hang out with and to be around. But there are very few other people that I've ever fought on the other side who make me have more fun. And he's one of those people.
Oh yeah, because he just does his weeaboo goofy styles and just with this big stupid grin on his face, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, but knowing those people, I know I'm not a Serpent Knight, but I know Serpent Knights, and I talk to them. And I'm not a warlord, but I know warlords, and I talk to them because I might never be one of these things, but I care. I want the game to get better, so I talk to them and I listen. So yeah, I have my toes in the different proverbial Amtgard pies, so I do have lots of, different opinions about things, sometimes strong opinions.
Hey, that's what we want though. That's what we want. So you said 2003, 2004, what edition was that? 6th still, or was that 7th yet?
I think if I remember, I came in at the very end of 6 and in the beginning of 7. Yeah. And
that would have been before that was still Rising Winds, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
Not that I knew it at the time, but I was still Rising Winds.
So you played locally and then went to Bell. What was I am an avid cross gamer. Absolutely love cross gaming. So again, I get real excited when I hear people that play multiple games. What was before we jump back to the Amtgard, what was your take on Bellegarth as a game at the time and how it relates to Amtgard? What was your take on Bellegarth?
It definitely was. I liked it because it was simpler in some, in some respects. It's, a much shorter rule book because, there's no classes, armor simpler, weapons are, kind of simpler. I also went to a Bellegarth event before I ever went to an Amtgard event. So like my Amtgard experience was just local. Now, granted, the Western Gate at the time, like a normal park day, there was like 60, 80 people. Yeah. Like a park event would be 120 people.
I've heard stories about how large that park was.
Yeah. Park was large and not always for, great reasons, but it was a larger atmosphere. So going to the Bell Park in St. Louis was going to a field of 10 to 15 people. But it was going from a large field of kind of maybe like dedication of players was kind of here or there. Some people were like very dedicated, would go to kingdom events. Some people were very much like, I don't even want to wear garb. I just want to come and like fight people. So it was kind of going from that like broad spectrum down to like everybody at the Bell Park, had, solid garb. Everyone had, solid, relatively uniformly designed weapons. Everyone kind of seemed like they had a similar investment in the game. So that was kind of nice. In some respects, it seemed a little bit more organized. And maybe then the park at the time, it very well might have been, because obviously, that was over a decade ago. Things change. I do remember going to my first Bell event and being in nothing like really modern, but I literally had some guy give me that line of, "You're ruining my medieval experience," and I'm kind of proud of that to this day.
Yeah. Did it by chance? Was it Wolfpack?
No, it wasn't. I think it might have been an old Oktoberfest.
Okay. I was gonna say, because if it's Wolfpack, what's ruining your immersion is the fact that you're fighting in a gym, not my lacrosse gloves. You're literally fighting on a basketball court.
Oh no, this was like outside in a field.
Okay.
Like I had on like salad color sweatpants. I had on a shirt with like a V cut in it and laced up like a hastily made tunic, but like I didn't have athletic shoes. Anyway, but that's in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I like the cross game. They're both fun. I've dabbled into the SCA when I was in college. Cool. Out here, Darkon is a really strong presence out here, and I desperately want to make it out to Darkon events and try that system out.
It looks sick. It looks real cool. I've seen a bunch of, so I've played in the Rising Winds for about 10 years, and some of the Darkon players from Pennsylvania and from Ohio have been traveling to Rising Winds tournaments, and they seem like great people, and their system looks pretty dang fun too. But I can't say that without playing it, and it's just not out here where I'm at.
Yeah. I had watched the Darkon like movie when I was like late college or whatever, and I actually talked to people who were around Darkon at that time, and I might have actually met the person that like did the movie, but that's a different tangent that we can maybe do later. But I've talked to some of the still very active Darkon people here were either in that movie or had friends in that movie or were around that time, and it kind of gets a groan from them.
Of course,
but like looking at the rule book, and it is kind of similar to Amtgard. I feel like it wouldn't be an awful transition, because they do have classes and magic and an armor system. Their weapon system is a little bit more complicated, because it's different weapons do different amounts of damage to armor, and some weapons of theirs are head legal in certain areas, and
And they hate on the Omnibats too. The Omnibats are clubs and don't do as much as the flats.
They against armor. If you use a club against like just an unarmored person, it's pretty much as effective. From what I've heard, I haven't gone out there to really tried it, but some people that I know that that started in Amtgard and have cross gamed over to DAG, you're like, no, you're fine. It's okay.
Yeah. I love the amount of cross gaming between all of these Amtgard, Belagarth, Dagger here, and Darkon now. I'll go to like a DAG day event, and there will be players from all 4 games on the same field together playing. And I think that's so cool. I love that.
Oh, me too. Yeah. And like you said, like they're like any organization, you're going to have, your good people and your bad people, but like the Darkon people that I've interacted with out here, are all just really solid people, and some of them even like started in DAG and moved over to Darkon, or maybe started Darkon and are going to DAG, or so maybe there's actually was a guy at our park this last Sunday who started in SCA and is coming over to Amtgard, and just all those games just cross pollinating is great.
It's so good. The pool of people that I have met from Darkon is very small, and I would guess are kind of their upper echelon, because if they're traveling over from states to fight in our tournaments, it's not just going to be a random nobody, But that being said, they're pretty dang good fighters too.
Yeah, so, you've probably met like Tyrael and Kai and Fikes and the no quarter people if it's like red and white with a cog.
Yep. Tyrael came and smoked a couple of our tournaments.
Oh yeah. He's our active warlord right now.
He's good.
Yes, he is very good. Good dude. Like honestly, Like you could walk up to him and ask him to, hey, can you first attend me and give you some pointers? And if he's not in the middle of something, he'll probably do it. Mm-hmm. Fikes she's an amazing fighter. I just watched her do incredible at the Hog Cup at Keep this year and swept the Rage Cage tournament, and just watching her fight on our field is fantastic. They're all good people, solid fighters. I think their company is also one of the bigger companies in Darkon as well. Mm-hmm. And they do, and they cross game a lot over into like Bell and Dag and stuff.
Yeah, my local DAG field has a bunch of Darkon crossover from whenever they hold their events. A Darkon group from Ohio will come down. And so I've interacted with them a little bit, and the combat seems fun. The magic system seems simpler than Amtgard, but still present, which I think is probably... As someone who hates offensive verbal magic, just the fact that they don't have offensive verbal magic makes me like, I want to try this game.
We were in a Discord hanging out one night talking over the rule book, and they were telling me that they're like, if you want to play in like the class games, the stick shot class for them is Druid, based on being able to like enchant yourself with magical armor, and you can still use like a bat and a medium shield, and like the meta, what you think would be like class meta for different things is not the same. I thought that was very interesting.
Well, and technically Amtgard, you put your warlords on druids still too. You just super golem them and let them go.
You could do that. I remember the days of it was Sir Wilhelm playing like wizard out at Western Gate and stuff, was just a beast. I feel like wizard and healer were like the stick jock, or like this, like the sword knight stick jock classes back in V7.
I like that. So my squire is trying to, his goal is warlord, but his best class right now is by far wizard. And I just think that that's pretty funny that you take these guys who you think are your stick jockey, whatever, and then you throw them on the flurbiest of classes. And it's just, I love it. I love our
game. They've got the hand-eye coordination for the spell balls. They can hand block with their dagger really well.
And he plays Battle Mage too, so he's got the endurance to just out everybody.
Exactly. Like you wouldn't think that, a wizard would translate with those same skills, but it does very, very well.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to jump back to beginning. You said that you started mainly from a teacher who over a shared interest in chainmail. When you got out to the field for the first time, what was the thing that stuck out to you that was like, I think I might actually give this a shot? Because it's got to be more than just the chainmail, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I unlike a lot of players, actually, I assume I had not ever played Dungeons and Dragons before I played Amtgard. I did not play Dungeons and Dragons till I got to college. But what I had played before I played Amtgard was EverQuest, and which had a heavy Dungeons and Dragons influence. Yep. Played EverQuest, loved like Ninja Turtles, and loved reading mythology. I was like that weird kid in 5th grade who would always check out the Norse mythology books from the library and stuff. So I still had this like deep love for fantasy things, and it was, like a lot of people say, it was like D&D come to life for me. It was, that kind of thing. I could go out there and I would see people in armor with these, weapons, different weapon combinations, these, huge axes or great swords and all these different things inspired by different aspects of nerddom. And it was just fun. It was just go out there and you get to fight people. And this was before, like I said, like going out there before I ever really knew that there was like the arts and sciences culture and all this different stuff, all the different aspects to the game. It was just, okay, I'm going to go out there and I started as monk. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to be a monk, and I'm going to go fight people. And it was, it was fun. One thing I do want to say, like, that I think is one of the strongest benefits of Amtgard, not necessarily over other games, but I think one thing that some people I think might take for granted, or because we'll see the talks on Facebook or forums of period this and period that. And Amtgard is a medieval fantasy game. And not only that, but we embrace drawing inspiration from pop culture. And there is no other game that I have heard of where that is, sometimes not even allowed, much less embraced like we do at Amtgard. Like one of our fighters that moved out here from Wetlands has a pink Hello Kitty tunic. And that's great. Or people that have, people with the different like Lantern Corps color tunics, or whether you're drawing from DC or Marvel or Doctor Who or Lord of the Rings, it's a more traditional fantasy or whatever. It all has its place in Amtgard. And I remember when I started, one guy had a big old style pound per foot red weapon, but it was based off of A, gross, but B, it was designed off of like Inuyasha's big sword from anime, and like that you can have stuff like that, and it's great. Whether it's even dipping a little bit into sci-fi, where you see 40K inspired things and Star Wars and Star Trek inspired stuff. And I don't think we should ever lose that embracing of things even beyond that medieval fantasy aspect. I think if you're going to look at something and say it's not, medieval enough, or if it's not medieval fantasy enough, you're thinking about it too hard. Like, as long as if it still encompasses that kind of core shape of something, like whether it's a T tunic that's got, a Starfleet emblem on it, or whether it's armor that maybe has the bat symbol painted on it or whatever, it still has that base layer of fantasy medieval stuff to it. And then your personality is just lets it, run wild and have fun with it.
I'm just happy they put the effort in to have tunic and armor.
Right? Exactly.
So I am kind of, you said you had never played D&D before LARPing. I had never been to a Renaissance fair until this year, actually. And I've been LARPing for 10 years, 15 years now, and absolutely adored it. And for me, Amtgard, out of all the games that I've played, reminds me the most of Renaissance Fair. Because when you're at Renaissance Fair, you see the Marvel stuff, you see the Fae stuff, you see Captain Jack Sparrow stuff, you see steampunk, you run the gambit of those things while still seeing a few SCAers there and a few reenactors there and a few of like the super historical people. But you do have a place for some of the more whimsical, where I play the SCA as well, and there's almost no room for that. They don't want that. Like, they actively push it away. Yeah. And it's different games, different rule sets. And
exactly.
Sometimes for me, it's really fun to come in and play the Minotaur Paladin. But then there are other times where I love going to the SCA and I love the historical research and being able to say, my garb is 14th century Mongolian. Here's what I think it's the mindset that you have going into it, and what you're looking for is how much you're going to enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't want to say that it was like, better than other games, but yeah, because every game, has their own draws. Like you said, SCA has that historical things. But when I went to college, originally I went to college to be a history teacher. So I love that historical aspect of the SCA. It's a lot of fun, and like the research that goes into it and all of that, period effort to make things, legit for that style is great. Or if you're going to go over to say like Nero, to a less combat heavy LARP, but it is more embraced in that traditional fantasy style. So you wouldn't see like a Lantern Corps tunic or a Wonder Woman tunic. But it also doesn't have that historical, each game has something positive to offer. And I think, especially, I think we're getting to that point with all of the cross gaming that does happen, that we are understanding that each game, none of these games are better or worse than the other one. They all have their benefits. It's just, okay, what am I looking for in a game today? I'm going to go here. And
that's it today. For me, it's eat the meat and spit out the bones. When I am going to each of these games, there are going to be aspects that I love and that I hate. And I'm going to play them. I'm going to enjoy the things that I enjoy about that game. And then next weekend, if I'm at a different game, cool, I'm going to do the same thing. And it might be a completely different set of reasons of why I enjoy that game. But I can still have fun at all of the games. And like you said, none of them are inherently superior to the others. I mean, I remember, and maybe you experienced some of this when you cross gamed. When I started, dagger here was a dirty word. Like you did not even consider going to dagger here, and you didn't talk about it. You didn't like Amtgard was it. And now almost every Amtgarder I know cross games a little bit, at least on a local level.
So I didn't really know, like for me, it was Amtgard and Bell because Bellegarth was the other active one in St. Louis. It seemed like kind of Bellegarth was west of Illinois, and then the west of the country was Bellegarth, and then east of that was Dagger here, and then getting into Darkon when you get into like around Maryland and stuff. But because the Bellegarth people, some of them did cross game into Amtgard, I think it was kind of okay. Especially because, I was Amtgard and they came to Amtgard, they came to us. And so it was okay now to go and try that. But I more so than that, it was don't go to the SCA because they're period snobs. They're going to like shit on you for your garb, and they're going to shit talk you for like, it was more like you play Amtgard, so don't go here because they will look down on you for it.
Now, I will say I have experienced a little bit of that in the SCA coming in, but mainly it was when I showed up with all of my modern applique. And I've never to this day had anyone say a single word to me, but I'm definitely like, I get looks every now and then when I wear it. But I think probably 10 or 15 years ago, I could definitely see. I think the game SCA has come to realize how big of a recruitment Amtgard is, right? There's that joke that all of our knights in Amtgard become knights and retire to the SCA. Like they get and understand how big of a recruitment factor Amtgard can be for them if they're not jerks about it.
Oh yeah. And when I went the few times I went, I went in like pretty like okay garb, like things that would be SCA acceptable. And when I talked to people about doing Amtgard, there were a couple of people that were like, oh, you do that, light sword stuff, whatever. I did actually, the people that I was camping with though, actually they did some boffer fighting in some of their events. Like they would have it, not because the kids SCA stuff was when they used the foam weapons, but it was also like they would have like a female fighter tournament where they would use like foam boffer weapons. And they were like, yeah, those people are mean. I was like, you get it. You know what's going on. But it also like, I think like you said, there's the joke that our knights, retire and then go to the SCA and become knights there. I think there is also a little bit of the reverse where because of the heavier armor restrictions and gear restrictions and weight of everything in SCA, I think I think I've seen people kind of age out of that and they go into Amtgard just for its more accessibility. You don't need the armor. The weapons aren't as heavy. It's easier on your joints. It's easier on your muscle. You can do it for longer.
For sure. One of the things that I admire the most about the SCA, and I've talked about this on previous episodes, they do a census every 10 years. And the 2021, you would think that because of the heavy nature of their combat, it would be a very male focused game. But their survey was like 60 or 65% of their dues paid members are female, which blew me away. And so I started to dig into it. And I think it's because of all of the off the field things that go on, the classes and some of the other, the persona research and some of the other things. Like you would think Amtgard would be the one, oh, well, it's more accessible. It's lighter weapons, like all the stuff you were just talking about. That means more women should play. But in the SCA, like a majority of their players are women, which just kind of blew my mind when I heard that. And I don't know what we at Amtgard and some of the foam fighting ones can take from that. You know what I mean?
And there's been a lot of that research kind of going around. I know Lightning's been doing a lot of excellent research on that, especially with like the on the field stuff. And you mentioned that it's probably due to a lot of the off the field, not the heavy fighting things. I definitely think there is something to that. Some friends of mine from college that still are really big into the SCA. A lot of them did do the non-heavy fighting stuff. One of my friends, Kat, she I'm pretty sure she's like won archery tournaments at some of the big SCA events and like makes her own arrows and all that kind of like, she is phenomenal. But yeah, I don't know, especially because of the off the field stuff. I I haven't done any research on it, so I can't really say, will they do this versus what we could do? Because, with the off the field stuff, maybe our percentages on the field of, men versus non-men fighters are similar or whatever. But the off the field aspect of it, it's a lot of similar things with the service aspects, the, office aspects, the crafting aspects of it. So, it would be something interesting to look into for someone that has the time.
Yeah, for sure. I remember looking at it and being like, because in my mind, SCA is the same as like Armored Combat League. And I only ever see men fight in Armored Combat League. I'm like, oh, so of course it's just men in the SCA. And then those numbers came out and then I started going to SCA events. I'm like, okay, I like this. I don't want it to just be all guys. Like that isn't a healthy game.
No.
If it's and the SCA is older too. That's another distinct difference. Their average age is like 15 to 20 years older than Amtgard. And so you have a lot of older guys. That's not necessarily going to be the healthiest game for the long term.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, and I'm gonna go out of order on my questions over here. You said that you were going to be a history teacher, and you loved all of that type of research in the Viking Nordic type of stuff. So you are a member of the Grendel company, correct?
Correct.
So I am fascinated with your all's company. Because I love.
It's a good thing or a bad
thing? It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I have a lot of respect for the Grendels in that I have interacted with, but I love the historical background that you all have with your structure, with your garb, with your setup. For the listeners who maybe have never interacted with the Grendels before, give me a rundown of your company, how it works, what its goals are, and then throw in some of the historical colorings to it that you guys have set up.
So, where to start? So let's start with the colors. Black and yellow is a historical color combination that had been found on Viking and Nordic people shields and stuff, in historical digs. And so it has that background as legitimate ties to the cultures, as well as we want to be obvious. We're out there to go and fight and have fun and just, have a good, we want to fight well, but we want to fight fun first. And we want you to see us coming. We want you to be prepared for, the Grendels rolling up on you. And so we can just fight more, have more fun, have a good time, die, go kill people, whatever. And then, so the structure of the company is, so there is the Conungers. So it originally started by 3 people, and those were the high Conungers. And that term actually have not looked into the definition of, but they are, well, there's only one of them left, which is Sir Conrad. So he is our last high Conunger. So they kind of have, he kind of has like the final say in anything he would in theory want to in the company, kind of just making sure if something like in the company was to go in a direction that was just super antithetical to,
the core principles,
to the core principles, to the goals of the company, he in theory could be like, well, no, because I say so. And by our company rules, that's fine. That has never happened in, the decade or whatever I've been at the company. So the member status is so if you're going to sort of be like a pledge or whatever, you start as a thrall. Thrall is, is a term I'm sure a lot of people have heard because it's used in lots of different places. It's for Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever. And those were like the captured people in Viking society that you could work your way to freedom. And in that working your way to freedom, the next status up is you can fight your way in a holmgang, which is also a traditional Viking judicial system, to be a bondi, which means free man. So then you have that kind of gets you rights to talk in our company meetings, to have your voice heard. Not that like if you were a thrall and you have like a legitimate concern, we're not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
We are, because but you know, the theory behind it all.
This is your member status.
Exactly.
Like your base level member.
Yes. So base level member is thrall. They can fight their way up to be a free man at a Bondi status. Once they have like, I think it's like X number of credits, have fought or helped with a duchy level or higher fighting tournament, participated in an arts and science tournament. Basically, have you kind of felt out the game? Have you been, have you tried it out really? And the home game part of it is we fight in a 8x, I believe it's 8x8 or 9x9 square.
Yeah.
Because in a traditional home game, like in history, that was the size of the cloak that would be thrown down. That's how big the square would be of the fabric, and that's how big the ring was that you would fight in. And so after that is Jarl, which is like the Earl Jarl, like the the leader of a village or tribe or whatever. And so that is just a straight vote. It requires 100% vote by every Jarl who is present.
Okay.
So basically, if you're not there, you don't get a vote. Too bad.
I like that.
And that's that's okay. And so the Jarls are voting members, and they're the leaders of the company. So like if you want to be voted in to be a Jarl, you need to show that you're stepping up and doing leadership stuff within the company, whether that's helping to organize, Grendel food for an event, because sometimes we kind of make our own meal plans or whatever, or whether you're getting people together for night quest, or whether you're, helping people pull together for service that needs to be done, anything like that. Yeah. And we were trying to help reinforce in our company, especially in the last few years, that you don't have to go up any of these ranks if you don't want to. There are people in our company that have been thralls for years, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a Bondi, if you don't want to be a leader, you just want to be a Bondi and fight with us and have a good time, sure, cool. That's cool too. Like I've seen people get into companies and they feel like it's a race to the top, and we don't want that. We want it to be especially within the company, if you're, a Grendel is a Grendel is a Grendel is how we put it. Whether you're a thrall or whether you're the high Kanungar, you still get respect. We're not going to, we don't haze our thralls. We don't, and nothing like that. It's garbage.
It is. That is one of the positive movements in company culture over the last, I don't know, half a decade, maybe, is companies are putting their foot down on the hazing, which needed to happen. Yeah. I remember when I joined the game, that was one of the things that, I don't know, I don't want to say worried me, but like, if there would have been something that would have got me out of the game as a new player, it would have been some of the hazing that I saw companies do, especially at Keep.
Yeah. And, some of those companies I have been around. I will say that first, a lot of the ones that I saw, it was all consensual and safe. Yep. But not to say I've never heard of other things happening that should not have. And like you said, Amtgard has made a lot of good shifts, and that is one of them too. Like, these things are not okay. I had mentioned I would watch some stuff in the Old Guard video. It's one of those good changes from Old Guard, things that may have been just because something was okay and you thought it was fun 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, doesn't mean it's okay now. The game is evolving, and, we need to evolve with it, whether you're, a day one player or whether you're a knight who's been playing for 17 years, you're here to play the game and make it fun for everybody, and it should be safe and welcoming in a good environment.
Yeah, and I get the need for companies to have some sort of vetting process, right? They want to make sure, especially the ones that have a very strict voting member thing. But there were horror stories of some of the hazing that would go on in our game that was allowed, and it was consensual, right? Both sides were whoever the pledge was agreeing to do these things. But that doesn't always mean that that's what you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Like, the fact that I can say that the word taser was involved some of those times, I've heard that, like, doesn't make it okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, there's that implicit power base, the power structure of, I want to be a part of this group, so I'm saying okay. They're whether or not it's an explicit like persuasion to do it, you're being persuaded. It's there. A lot of
times is, do you want to wear our symbol? Then do this, even if it is degrading, even if it is whatever, So part of the thing that fascinates me about your company is your open door policy for membership. Am I understanding this correctly?
Correct. So if you want to be a member of Grendel, and I'm not trying to like plug our company, but
plug it, man, go for it.
I mean, I've been a member of the company for a long time. I've been a Jarl for a long time. Oh, one other structure. We have a couple of like side structures. So like there's a circle of elders that is kind of sort of like above / to the side, the Jarl. So if like, it's kind of like if there's a problem in the Jarls, they can adjudicate something to the Circle of Elders, which is four Jarls that get voted on, and Conrad as a High Conungr is always one of those 5 people. But yeah, if you want to be a Grendel, you go to a Jarl and say, "Hey, I want to be a Grendel." And if you've met our very basic requirements, which is I think it's have like 15 credits. And have a working knowledge of the other fighting companies in your area, because we don't want it to be a snap decision.
Yeah.
As long as you've been around the game for a little bit. Yeah. And you're not just coming up to the first fighting company you see and asking, yeah, sure. Try it out. If it's for you, stay. If it's not for you, cool. We've had members that have been in our company for a little bit and decided it wasn't for them and left, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about fighting companies is as a new player getting taken under the wing of some of my friends, having a place to camp, having a safe place to be, to learn the game and have fun and ask questions on. But one of the things that I've seen over and over and over again in fighting companies is they balloon up in size. The personalities don't mix, companies end up splitting, and then they hate each other and they don't get along, and then they balloon up again and then they split. How have you guys had an open door policy like this for so many years in this game and not eaten yourself? Like, I don't understand how that works.
Oh, it happened.
Okay.
It happened before my time at Amtgard. There was, I wasn't playing then. There are people that were and can attest to it more. So old Grendel, we'll call it. Mm-hmm. Did you ever know Sir Wisp?
Yes, I met him when I was a new player just a couple of times.
He was one of the 3 founding members of Grendel. Okay. Sir Johann von Grimmelhausen was. If you know Sir Kenshin, he used to be in Grendel. There's you probably know several people who either were in Grendel or were around Grendel for a little bit. But the way I was told it, the company got up to 300 members or whatever. It was the biggest company in the game. I don't know how much that is actually true. Yeah. But the company got big, and it got big to the point where some of the long-standing and even founding members of the company would go to a Grendel meeting, maybe in another kingdom or another region, and the people there would stop them from coming in because they didn't know who they were. And it was like that, the point of being that big. And Grendel, imploded and people just left. And when I joined Grendel, I think I was I became the 4th or 5th active member of the company in the game at that time. Okay. And so it grew. We actually had a really good period of growth for a while, got back up to maybe 40, 50 active players. And it's starting to wane again. And I think that's okay. Yep, it is. It happens in companies. It happens in kingdoms. It happens in parks. You'll go right now, Grendel has a really strong Polaris presence. Our Rising Winds presence, I think, is pretty decent still. I feel like our Taldagor presence has been waning, and hopefully that'll get back up again. Since I've moved out to Crystal Groves, I've recruited a little bit out here. But anyone that's watching this, if you're in a fighting company and you see your numbers drop, but you love your fighting company, you want to keep it going, stick with it. I know there was a time when Conrad was the only active Grendel in Rising Winds, possibly the only active Grendel in the game. But he loved the company and he wanted to keep it going. And so he did. And, and it's grown back up again into this family that we have.
I love it. So I'm in FC, which is on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, where we are quote unquote super elite, and we are, at any given time only 20 or 30 people, and that's on the high end most of the time. And I look at Grendels, and I look at some of the other larger, Kumorgan, some of these other massive companies. And it's one of those, it's just an environment that I'm not used to. So it's fascinating to me. I love, you know what I mean? And I think it's really cool that we have a system that both can exist and can exist well together. If you want the big company or you want the super small company, Amtgard has a place for you if that's what you want. Oh,
for sure. And if you ever want to go hang out at Grendel Camp sometime and just see what it's like, hang out, talk to people, come have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. I like the different. We have some new players coming to our park, and they're like, "So, what are explain the companies to me? How do they work?" And it's like, dude, I can't. Like, that's such a big question. Yeah, you don't even know what you're asking. You know what I mean? Like, but I think that's cool. I like that because that's something that is kind of missing in some of the other games that I play. SCA has it, but DAG doesn't. And Bell has units a little bit, but their units in their realms are really closely intertwined in a way.
That's one thing I noticed.
Yeah, in Amtgard, they're just not. It's not that.
Yeah, I think DAG is also kind of similar, where your realm and your unit are two very similar, if not the same things. Like I said, SCA, Amtgard, and Darkon, I would say also have that kind of. Unit, or in Darkon, they're, I think, referred to as, I can't remember if it's countries and fighting companies are the same thing, or that you can have both. You can have those differentiations in those, in those games more so than others.
Yeah, the fighting company culture in Amtgard is one of, I think, its biggest strengths, but then on the other hand, also one of its biggest weaknesses too. I think that fighting companies are a big reason that hook new players and keep them coming back. But I think if you were to quiz and poll people who have left the game, fighting company related issues would probably be a top 5 issue on why someone leaves too, So it's a double-edged sword.
Coming from Rising Winds and Taldegor that had very strong, but I would also say very amicable fighting company cultures. I don't remember there ever being any real animosity between any of our companies. And coming out to Crystal Groves, which really didn't have a fighting company culture when I got out here and talking to people. It was because the companies that used to exist out here had real beef with each other. It was not a friendly rivalry from what I have come to understand. And so fighting companies just stopped existing out here. And I think they're starting to make a little bit of a resurgence. I've got Grendel out here up to about 5 people. There's some other people that I might try to recruit. And then you had Sir Jinx on, and his fighting company, Brimstone Basilisks. They're kind of they're the big company out here. They've probably got 20, 30, maybe. Okay. I don't think they have quite 40 people, but they've got a substantial, they're easily the biggest fighting company in our kingdom. And kind of like you're saying, it's a positive, it's a negative. It's good because, there is these companies here and people can see the benefits to them. But, sometimes when you get one really big company in a kingdom, it doesn't really diversify the fighting companies. And so you can't really get, 5 or 6 even playing field companies to do a company battle or whatever you want to do. It might end up being these 4 or 5 companies against the one larger company. And, that can also kind of breed some animosity. It's a balancing act of, what do you like? What's healthy for your local culture and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I have just recently, in the last 6 months, we've created a new freehold, which we'll be petitioning. I shouldn't say joining. We'll be petitioning the Kingdom of Winter's Edge here in just a couple of weeks, actually. And as we're getting to know the culture of Winter's Edge and chatting with different people there, I'm coming to learn that not every kingdom has the fighting company culture that the Rising Winds does. And it's kind of blowing my mind because that's such a central part to how I process Amtgard. To think of other kingdoms not having a huge fighting company culture, just I can't process it, man. I don't know what to do with it.
Oh yeah, when I came out here, it was okay. There's this company over here, and it's like these 5 people, and there's another company over here that's like these 5 people, and then there's maybe these couple people who fight together. Like there really wasn't a lot. And I kind of tried to take it upon myself to maybe change that a little bit. I don't know how much it ended up really helping, but I read a company battle day. So it was, come out with your company, or if you're not in a company, come out and see what other fighting companies are out there. And we did. So like I had like a company A&S. So enter in A&S items themed to your company in this competition, and then had company battle games like capture the flags and like hold the point kind of stuff planned out. And I think stuff like that, I want to run it again whenever I have time. Cool. But I think stuff like that can be beneficial in just helping keep good relations with fighting companies. Because one thing I did with that was also paring down the team sizes. So it would never be the entire company versus an entire other company. So it could just be sheer numbers outman that way. It'd be okay, take each of your company's best 5 people and go do capture the flag or whatever. Cool. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying about, what do you mean there's no company? And other cultural things too, coming from the Midwest and, coming to the East Coast and coming from TD and Rising Winds and coming out to Crystal Groves. Sometimes it's hard to put your finger on, but it's just like the atmosphere and the mood and the tone is different. And that's not necessarily to say it's better or worse one place or the other. But yeah, it's just different, and it takes some getting used to.
Can you give me a couple of examples other than fighting company culture? Because that's the.
So when I first a very stark example. So I could never. I couldn't really see me doing a keg stand in Crystal Groves like I have done back in TT and Rising Winds at events. I think just a little bit of that shenanigans culture that you see in Rising Winds and TD of, and maybe just because I grew up there, and so I knew what was acceptable to my friend group and what we could do with each other and what was okay.
You knew where the line was.
Yeah. Or like, I know it's kind of a small thing, but there was like nobody that smoked when I got out to Crystal. Not that I don't smoke cigarettes, but you almost couldn't walk down a ditch field in like Rising Winds and Tal'Degor without seeing somebody single sword offhand cigarette. And then
it's so true.
And then coming out to Crystal Groves, and I think part of it's because of the taxes of things out here for it. But you just didn't see anybody smoking cigarettes out here. Then there was the company culture thing, and you see different A&S cultures in different places, and different event cultures out here too. So like we don't have single day event Weapon Master, Dragon Master kind of things out here. Because from when Crystal Groves was a static crown of the Grand Duchy of Crystal Groves, they rolled their park and kingdom events into one thing. So it'd be like a kingdom event. It'd be a kingdom event. So you'd have all those normal kingdom event things, and then it would roll into the Grand Duchy's Weapon Master, Dragon Master. And the next one would be Kingdom Weapon Master, Dragon Master, and Grand Duchy's mid-reign or coronation.
Okay.
And but it was weird, but it works for them. So you just kind of got to roll with it.
Were there any noticeable differences? You said that you've served in monarchy teams in both kingdoms. What were the similarities, and what were some of the differences between the two?
I don't. So not in necessarily one that I served in, but in office responsibilities, a big difference I saw out here from what I'm used to is in Crystal Groves, the KGMR is the one who is in charge of running all of the fighting tournaments.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there's still that ban authority. There's still they do the Kapora and Reeves tests, but yeah, they're also the ones that run your weapon master, or when we used to have quals, they would run the quals tournaments. And so your champion is the battle games and then weapons checking and safety thing. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, interesting split of responsibilities.
That's kind of Winter's Edge does something similar. Their regents are the automatic autocrats, and their champions are the automatic warocrats, and they can delegate, but by default, those are the role, which is way different from everything that I've ever seen. But I kind of like it, like that, because I've done Kingdom Regent, and there's like you run one tournament. Yeah. What else do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's cool to be able to give those, and champion too. You run one tournament.
I think sorry, go ahead.
I think it's cool to have more responsibilities for those roles.
Oh yeah. I think when I started Regent, one of their responsibilities was they weren't autocrat, but they were automatic feastocrat for events. I do like the champion being automatic warcrat. It's one thing that I've seen out here with the champion running battle games is it works really good on a park level, but at a kingdom level, if the champion's not the warcrat, it can be hard to get if there's a rain theme, and then because they'll have separate event themes that aren't the rain theme because of like bidding out processes and stuff. It's hard to get those things to mesh. So having a rain theme that leads into the events and having that storyline go into the events and the event battle games is kind of difficult. So I think, definitely I can see the benefits of that from that perspective. But as far as like being monarch in both kingdoms, I don't really think there is not really any differences. Not that I noticed. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to suspend people. Those duties were pretty much the same, in both areas. I did get to go to my first IKCOM meeting as Monarch of Crystal Groves.
How'd that go?
That was fun. It was only an 8-hour meeting.
Bad.
I liked it though. I got to meet a lot of people that I may have only talked to on Facebook. Made a lot of friends. Loxus out of Rivermore, Dallin out of Golden Vale. Just meeting people. I got to go with my Squire Fintroll from TD because he was Monarch of TD at the time. I think Yorick was Rising Winds Monarch, so I got to see him, hang out with him a little bit, meet him more. It was fun. Just from from the Monarch perspective, being there, seeing that process, getting to vote on things, but also at the time I had a little bit of like personal investment because when I was there, I had written the wording for what eventually passed for the Order of the Crowns.
Oh, cool.
And so I've been brought on to the awards evaluation team as part of that. And so I also got to go around to the other monarchs and be like, hey, here's this thing I worked on. Do you have any questions for me? Because I would like for it to pass. So what do you want to know?
I like it. For the listener who may not be familiar with Amtgard rules and how everything changes, once a year, there is a meeting where all of the monarchs or one of their representatives get together. It's in Texas, right?
This was in Mexico.
New Mexico.
But usually the Burning Lands area, whatever, what area they occupy.
And so most of the monarchs or one of their representatives comes to this. It's a giant meeting. This is where rules changes on a national level happen. This is where the monarchs tell the AIBOD what they want them to look into, what new committees need to be formed, what research needs to be done. And it's this big giant ordeal. Did I miss anything? Is that about how it is?
I mean, that's about right. I mean,
okay.
There's other stuff at the event too, just like a normal event. There's arts and sciences stuff. There's tournaments. There's battle games. There's
you just
classes.
Have to spend your whole day in a room.
But if you're going there as a monarch, you pretty much are going to spend Saturday in a meeting, and it's going to be awful most of the time. A lot of people have this perception, I feel like, of the Amtgard shadow government, the Amtgard Illuminati, and there's like 4 people who make all the rules or whatever, and then you go sit in on this IKCOM meeting or sit in on your Kingdom's BOD meeting. Seriously, if you think there's some crazy shenanigans behind the scenes, go sit on your Kingdom's BOD meeting. It is boring most of the time. It's just like budget this. These are the event bids we have. Okay.
And when it's not boring, it's stressful and you don't want to be there anyway.
Yeah. Right? Cause you're having to like suspend somebody or review a suspension or what. Like,
if it's not boring, something major is happening. And most of the time, major happenings in Amtgard are not fun.
Correct. Yes. I mean, like I said, I helped, I got brought onto the awards evaluation committee. So the story was I was just kind of on my own, had written this wording for Order of the Crowns because I always thought that old crown points were absolute dog shit. If it's okay for me to curse on this podcast. No,
you're good. You're good.
Cool. Yeah, they were dog shit because they were in the part of our rule book that was titled award standardization. They were in no way, shape, or form standardized, and it was awful. There was like an entire half of it that never got used because you had kingdom crown points and duchy crown points, and damned if I ever heard of anyone who got crown knight from just duchy points.
Explain the crown point, the old crown system for maybe some of our newer listeners.
So the old crown point system, you could get points for serving in duchy offices or kingdom offices. If you served in duchy offices, you got 1 point for every office, and you needed to get 6 points, I believe it was. Kingdom offices.
I thought it was 4.
4 was kingdom.
Okay. I got you.
Yes, 4 was kingdom. But you got 2 points if you served good as monarch. So you could, in theory, do 2 terms as monarch and get your points. But then there was no standard system for how are these points determined? Are they voted on by your COK? Are they voted on by the new monarchy coming in? Who tracks these points? Anything like that. It was all. It was just whatever it was a mess. It was garbage.
It essentially came down to the monarch being able to knight someone for crown.
Yeah.
And that was about it. Like there was, because some kingdoms, the circle of knights voted afterwards, and then that's how points were verified. Other kingdoms, like you said, the monarchs coming in could verify. Other kingdoms, there was no system, and it was, I think this guy has done 3 reigns. Now let's give him a crown belt.
Right.
And then some kingdoms had it to where you couldn't get crown belt unless you served as the monarch, as the big hat. And so you could be champion 17 times, but you're still not going to get your crown belt.
Oh yeah, you could be the best PM in the world, but if you don't want to be monarch, then you're not going to be a crown knight. And again, that was garbage.
It was terrible.
Yeah. But so
thank you for the work. I appreciate the changes.
So the kind of like funny thing was I had written this up based on just talking to people that I've known in the game for a long time and listening to maybe a side conversation of, I don't like this thing or whatever. And I showed it to a friend of mine, Senpai Rel Shan, out here in Crystal Groves, and they were on the awards evaluation committee, unbeknownst to me. And I was like, hey, you're somebody that, is intelligent and knows things. Can you look over this for me and tell me how I think it is? And they got back to me and were like, well, we just did all of this data that backs up what you wrote. Would you like to be on this committee with us? Sure. So I bet we each kind of did half of each other's work without knowing it. And it worked out real well. And it was me and Rel and Devin Reimers. I know he just changed his persona name. It was Ormar. I think it changed to like Varamar, I believe. But
out of River.
Yes. No, he's in Iron Mountains right now.
Okay.
But another wonderful player. And so we did that, and that got pushed through. And now I've been working on other things on the awards committee along with other things that I do because I have a problem.
I hear that so much from Crown Knights and Crown Knights and Flame Knights that I have a problem. I can't tell people no.
I blame my mother, and I blame my mother for a very specific reason because my mother is a professional event planner, and I've been working for her since I was like 9 years old, helping with parties. So she literally raised me to be a Flame Knight.
I love it.
She thinks it's funny too. I've told her this joke and she liked it as well. But yeah, I like doing things. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so sometimes it's easier for me to like look at my phone real quick, message somebody back about something. My kids are having lunch. I can go type up a proposal for whatever or look at my messages. So, but learning to say no has been something that I've had to train myself to do. Not that it's helped me a whole lot. I'm down to only being part of one BOD and being on the awards evaluation committee.
I like it. So someone who's watching this and they are about to enter into their first office at their local level, Do you have any advice for them? What is something you would tell them before they jump into this?
So, do your best. Your best is good enough. If you ever worried about something, ask. Unless you're starting a brand new park with no veteran players at it, there's going to be somebody there that's done what you're doing or something close to it. Ask them a question. Reach out to other people in your kingdom if you have a question. Basically, do your best. Ask questions if you have questions. You might think it's a stupid question, but if you don't ask it, you're not going to get an answer. And you're not going to make everybody happy. And that's especially true advice for if you're going to be monarch. Especially Kingdom Monarch, you're going to make decisions that people aren't going to like, and that has to be okay.
How do you deal, especially at a kingdom level, when you make a decision and one that you feel fully 100% on board with? You've talked with your other monarchy team. Maybe you've reached out to some of your mentors and revealed the information that you can, not revealed the information that you can't. But you've made a decision and people are going to rail against it. You put it out there and then the messages start coming. What do you do?
The response can depend on what the thing is that has happened, but
how about you ban somebody, and because of the way you don't reveal COC number, you don't reveal what this person who is a beloved player is now banned permanently, and the messages are flooding your inbox.
I mean, I will tell them that, the player has been informed of why they have been terminated to the best of my ability. If you would like more information, you can talk to this person.
So step one, tell the player why they're banned.
Oh, yeah. You should honestly, absolutely. You should absolutely tell a player who is being suspended why they're being suspended to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Without breaking confidentiality and without.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That way it kind of covers your butt. It's just a good thing to do. And we've reached out to lawyers in our area for advice, like NPO lawyers. And, that was one of the things that they were like, hey, for kind of like, basic, for lack of a better word, due process, even though, we don't have to go through the same due process as our actual legal system. You should tell the player why they're being suspended, again, to the best of your ability. And if someone is like, why did you just ban my friend? They're a good person. They would never do this. See this person. I explained to them to the best of my ability. Go talk to them. The information I had was overwhelming. Maybe that's the most I'll give them, something like that. But in other cases, if it's maybe like a policy decision, or even with autocrating or running some parts of an event, you'll make decisions that people don't like. And for stuff like that, it's a little bit, my response just might be, well, let's try it. And it'll be, let's try it. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. It's also okay to be wrong. If you're in charge of anything in this game, if you're running Gate, if you're running a Shire level event, if you're running, the next, Gathering of the Crowns, or, you're running the next IKCUM, whatever, if you're going to, be your next board of directors president, it's okay to be wrong. And like I said, you're not going to make everyone happy, and that's okay. And sometimes you're going to be wrong, and that's also okay. You need to be honest with your populace. You need to be honest with yourself. And you're going to get the best results. While I was monarch of Tal Dagor, it's not a huge thing in the grand scheme of issues, but, we, for whatever reason, I don't remember why, we ran into a scheduling issue, and we couldn't have the proper length of time for certain election things by our Kapora and then still have our event schedule run how we wanted it to. And I just told the populace, honestly, I was like, hey, we've got this scheduling conflict. I'm going to do it this way, which isn't by Kapora. And if anyone has a problem with that, let me know and we can figure it out. But because of these reasons, so the event runs on time and the election finishes on our normal timetable, I'm doing this. I was very open of what I was doing and why I was doing it, and no one had a problem with it. And if somebody did, then that would have been fine too. We would have talked about it and hopefully, figured something out. But
I have mad respect for the leaders in our game who are transparent, but then B, when they do mess up, say they mess up. I think that's huge. And that earns you so much. I don't even want to call it leeway, but understanding from the people that you are leading over. If you're forthcoming with why you're making the decisions that you're making, even if someone disagrees with the decision, if you're honest about it, and then if it is wrong, admit that is wrong, that goes a really long way.
Oh yeah. And even like I said, I might disagree with, say, you're monarch and you're doing something but you tell me why you're doing it. I can disagree with you, but I can also still understand your reasoning for why you're doing it. So I can say, well, I think this is a bad idea for X, Y, and Z, but I can understand why you think it's a good one.
Yeah. And I know for me in my work, the changes that I make that are the ones that I am preparing for, like I know this, I in my mind, this is the change that's going to make everybody upset. I'm prepping for it. I've got my defenses ready. I make the change and no one says a word. It's like, well, what happened? And then the change that I just make, because I don't think anyone's going to care about, that's the one everyone freaks out on, like it's
of course.
And I am assuming that in Amtgard, it's kind of that way too. Some of the decisions that you make, you're prepping for an argument, and then sometimes you don't get one. And then other decisions you just kind of throw out there because you don't think anyone's going to care about. And then that's the one that blows up in your face sometimes.
Oh yeah. And especially like with being a monarch at a kingdom level and voting on things, that's where I've seen kind of a big issue. I don't want to say issue, but that circumstance come up where maybe a monarch feels like they have a grasp on how their populace feels on a certain issue. They vote a certain way, and then the results of voting come out, and then the populace is just dogging them like, we don't want this. Why do you think we wanted you to vote? We're not behind this decision. And that's also another thing, like being involved in those inner kingdom monarchy votes with that kind of like open and honesty thing. There was a vote. I had to step in for a monarch because they were sick. So I stepped in and handled the voting for them. And some of the monarchs voted in a way that on a thing that I didn't agree with. But they were like, hey, I literally did a poll in my populace. They feel this way. I don't. But because my populace feels this way and I'm their representative, I am going to vote, no on this, this thing. And like I said, they were, I can understand why he's doing what he's doing. I disagree with, that vote, but I understand why he's voting that way and I respect that. Yeah. For
sure. That's one of the things, again, if you're forthcoming with information, it is very easy. It's very easy for me to look at like just ban's the one that everyone gets upset about, because no information is there. But outside of bannings, right, you're talking about with the scheduling, lay the information out there. Most of the time people are pretty forgiving. Oh yeah.
Because it is, you have that transparency. There's no room for anyone to say, shadow government or, you're doing this for, nefarious reasons or whatever. Because it's all just so dumb. Sorry, like, not saying that there's never been anyone who's done like shady politics things in Amtgard, because they absolutely has been. But like, say, your BOD is trying to control your kingdom from behind the scenes is by and large going to be just a garbage statement that isn't true. Like I said, I have strong feelings on certain things, and I just forgot completely what we were just talking about.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah, just be open. You'll get a lot of leeway. Be honest with your people, and just do your best.
And I like. Well, we can wrap this point up with what you started with. Your best is good enough. I think that is a very good. A lot, especially on the local level, when I see people get into leadership roles and then they get overwhelmed and it either drives them from the game or from office as a whole, and they take it as a personal affront to their character that they couldn't be regent of their local park. Your best is good enough, right? Like we're here to have fun. If you're not having fun, take a step back, and there's nothing wrong with that.
100%.
So I want to flip. We've talked about your Master Crown. So now Master Rose. what was that path like for you? What were some of the things that you were doing as you earned your masterhood there?
So, like, kind of looking back on my orc, because I was a new player and I didn't know about Orc 2 and like how to look at it for a long time. Some of my early ones, I don't honestly know or remember what they were all for, but even like some of my like earliest ones, like 3 and 4 and stuff, were for, like I had said, in college I would travel to Noblander, which for anyone that doesn't know what Noblander was, it was a 24-hour immersive battle game. It would be lay on Friday night, and the game would not stop until Saturday evening.
We need more of those.
It was yes, it was fantastic. Fintroll had ran a couple of them back in TD. I believe I think he's wanting to do that again. And if he does, you should absolutely travel out there to do them. I want to try to do them out here. They're so much fun to do. But I would go and help build props for them, or I would go and be monsters for them, or I would go and help with logistics for it. And so just kind of working my way up doing those things. And especially kind of when I got to the point where I was helping with the logistics side of running Noblander, which would, it'd be a 200 plus person event, so a good kingdom level size event. That's when I started to get, and also after college, because when I'm in college, I can't really run an event, but after college, getting back into the swing of the game, then I would go and maybe, help to maybe write battle games for this, that, or the other. I feel like I just kind of went from like logistics and then to autocrating events, maybe is almost how it feels like.
That's a jump. That's a jump there.
I make weird, like I said, I had maybe sat gate a couple of times, had never ran gate, and then I decided to run gate for keep.
Thrown in.
Just like, and then the next year I was one of the co-warcrats for keep, and helped write a lot of the battle games for it. So yeah, but would do that. I know one of the thing that I consider kind of my this is, where I can kind of prove to myself that I'm a master is one of our events in TD, our winter, I think it would be winter mid-rain, was kind of just always written off as a loss. Just get the cheapest place you can and we'll lose as little money as possible. And I was like, no, I am a better Jew than this. I will make us money. And I did. I took an event where we just had lost money for, as long as people could remember, like the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever. And then I doubled our money, and then I doubled our money we did with the next year. And I just,
what went into that? Like as someone, I've only run like Grand Duchy and local events. The idea of running kingdom level events for that much of a profit margin, what goes into that?
So you have to, I'm trying to think of the order of what I want to do this in. So one thing is going to depend. One thing will depend on who approves your budget. And so whether it's gonna be like your monarchy or your board of directors, you want to know who you're going to have to go to get your money. You want to look at, so like with this one in particular, I was like, okay, it always loses money. Well, how much have we spent on it historically in the past? Okay, what kind of sites can I find for maybe around this kind of money? And then it's okay, what can I offer to, because I think part of it was also they weren't charging a gate fee. Maybe I've slept since then. I have 2 kids. I don't remember all of it, but so what I went into for this event, that was okay. I found a site that I liked, that I thought was a reasonable price for a day event. We could fight inside. It had a kitchen. So, okay, we can have a tournament. We have battle games, maybe a little bit of both. We can have feast, and there's room that people can also teach classes. So there's a little bit of everything that people can want to do. And again, in a reasonably priced area. Okay. So here's my budget. Here's what my site is going to cost. Okay. How much am I going to want to plan for feast? Okay. and then miscellaneous stuff. How much will I need any money for gate? Will I need any money for battle game stuff? Whatever. But my two big things were site and feast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, here's how much money I, in theory, I'm going to need. And I was okay. Let's go back and look at the previous events. One thing I did look at that I was definitely looked at was what was the attendance like.
Important.
Okay, so this is what this. I would say this is what my minimum attendance is going to be. How much do I need to charge these many people to get to this number? And that was really the basics of it. Like that was like it's not some huge. Yeah. It can be like a bigger formula than that, but at the basics, it's how much do I need to charge these, couple hundred nerds to make this much money, and then work with you do it number. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then find a team that is good working with your style. Because one thing is different people have different autocrat styles. Autocrat similar to how I run my belt line. I will check in with you and I will give you as much help as you need from me. If you need me to micromanage you, I can. If you are good being left alone and you don't want to be micromanaged and you want to maybe have periodic check-ins, that's cool too. But get a team that you trust and you can work with and trust them to do their thing. Mm-hmm. Trust that they're going to do their thing well. And anyway, when you get to bigger events, there's, more things that have to factor into it. So a tangent thing I also want to go into, going back to like the honesty part is, when I was Monarch and CG and running one of our events here, when I was autocrating here, I raised the gate price, which gets a lot of big no-nos from people at Amtgard. Yeah. Which again, I think Amtgard's low price for its events and stuff is also can be a good selling point of it. I think we're getting to the point where we're understanding the need for higher gate fees in the economy we live in. $20 gate fee at this economy, but
if you were going to these sites to camp for the weekend, you would be 3 times that. To camp at this normal campsite, let alone feast, Sorry, this is one of the hot buttons for me where people are like, you can't charge more than $25. Dude, I can't even camp here for $25. What do you mean everything else? Like you're feeding me 17 meals too.
Right. That was another thing when I got out to Crystal Groves is they provided every meal. It was 3 meals on Friday, 3 meals on Saturday, maybe a dinner on Thursday.
Charge me $120.
There were cabins on that site too that you could get. But anyway, but I raised the gate price by like $10, and this was in the AI litigation days, which are not too far behind us, but are technically not here anymore. And so different, kingdoms are having to try to find ways to, make money to help pay for these lawyers for our game. And I was like, hey, site costs are going up, costs of everything are going up. Cost of Amtgard is going up because, we're starting to try to have an actual budget for AI. Mm-hmm. I'm raising the gate fee by this much money. I think I raised it by like $5 or $10. And I got like a little pushback, but really not much. Again, if you're open and honest about why you're doing things, it can go a long way. And that one event got us half of our budget before we needed to pay for AI that year.
That's awesome.
I can be very good at making money. But yeah, so if someone here is wanting to go into, running things, I know that's kind of like the standard, like Flame Knight service path is running things at events, which also, if you want to be a Flame Knight and you never want to run anything at an event, awesome.
Do it.
It might take some more creativity, but absolutely do it. Absolutely.
I want more and more Master Roses for those who make all of our scrolls.
I think,
for instance,
I have. So yes, I think it depends on maybe whether it's bought or donated. Mm-hmm. If somebody's going to do a scroll and donate it, I would have zero problem. Yep. But if the kingdom's paying for that service, I think that when it can get a little bit like dicey.
At least in the Rising Winds, none of the artists that I know of are paid for Master Scrolls, Master Hoods, any knighting scrolls, any of that stuff.
Yeah, sure. Give roses. Absolutely. That is absolutely a service to the game.
I mean, I know people hang their stuff up. That is a huge selling point, and it rewards. Another one of my tangents that I could go on forever and ever on. We need more Master Rose for the people who make our awards.
Oh, it's kind of that split between paying artists for their work, which you absolutely should do. Like that was what most of my budget as Monarch. Also, if you're Kingdom Monarch and you have a discretionary budget, use that discretionary budget. Go pay some artists to do cool things. Like that's where my money went to, was paying people to do scrolls. But yeah, I think service, Flame Knights for doing the scrolls, Flame Knights for donating, anything, or just, again, like try something new. If you've got an idea, almost especially if you have an idea that someone's like, you shouldn't do this. It's been tried before and it didn't work. So don't do it. Try it and do it. Because you know what? Just because it didn't work then, maybe you're the person to get it to work.
Talk a little bit on your wiki, your pictures of the food fight. So that's another different type, a different avenue into Flame. That's a really cool, I don't want to call it a service to the game, but a really cool avenue for the game. Talk a little bit about Food Fight and your involvement there.
So that was from, I had helped run Food Fight for Keep. I don't even remember anymore. But for what I've been to every single Keep since day one, and I love it. But it was one of the Keeps, maybe 2016, I think. I wasn't on the side of helping to procure items. I was on the side of making sure like there was a place for the money to go, and that I got us a Square reader and was running Square so we could do credit cards for the auction, because Keep had like this huge Food Fight auction and made like a significant amount of money. But Food Fight is a great thing that, that we do. If anyone is watching this and doesn't know what Food Fight is, I know with COVID, I think some kingdoms haven't been really, participating in it too much. I know we haven't, and that's fine. It's a lot of stuff's going on. But it's, drive for local food banks, whether it's for canned food or monetary donations. And it's, again, that friendly rivalries between kingdoms of just, who can raise the most money for charity. How awesome is that? Like, if we're going to compete for something, I think that is a super cool thing to compete for. There's no trophy, there's no scroll, it's all just for bragging rights.
Which is enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's great. And it's just doing a good thing for, for people that need it. And people will do it in different ways. So like I said, we had, at Keep for a few years, we had a Food Fight auction. We had a wonderful player, Sir Fuzz, who knew a lot of people at like Gen Con and Dragon Con and stuff, and would go around and he would say, hey, I'm collecting stuff. If you want to donate something for this charity we're doing, it's going to get auctioned off and the money's going to go to food banks. And he got a lot of people at these conventions at their vendor booths to donate like board games and books and dice and statues and accessories like for doing TTRPGs and stuff. We had some people who worked at like liquor stores and got promotional alcohol donated and shot glasses and stuff. And it would get auctioned off. Some kingdoms might do a tournament where your entrance fee is a canned good. Just anything like some places would do. Yeah. Anything that you can think of to help promote this kind of charity, you can do. Like some parks would do for Food Fight, bring a canned good and gain a level, or bring a canned good and get a magic item for the day or something like that. There's just so many things that you can do with it. And it doesn't have to stop at Food Fight. In TD, we did Toys for Tots tournaments where your entrance fee to the Kingdom tournament was, a new unwrapped toy, and we'd go do that for charity. If there's a charity you feel strongly about, and not just for the Amtgard accolades of incorporating this charity into a part of our game, which is, you absolutely should get. But just, if there's a charity you feel strongly about and you want to do a good thing that also involves Amtgard, find a way to try to incorporate it. Like I said, tournaments are really, really easy ways to do that. Auctions can be really, really easy ways to do that, and just, raising money for a good cause.
Yeah, I think the quote non-standard paths to flame are some of the most interesting in our game, because we need those who run our events, right? That's what makes our world go round, but those who are doing some of the non-traditional stuff like Food Fight here are super interesting to me, because I think that's one of the most creative outlets in the game. Like, people they think of Serpent Knights as these super creative, or maybe they think of Smiths as super creative. But I know I've seen some people who are high level roses who have done some amazing things for the game that I couldn't even have thought of, or I couldn't even have fathomed. Like, if you have a desire to serve this game in some capacity, go out of the box. If you don't want to crat an event, don't. That doesn't limit you from pursuing service to the game.
Oh yeah, I have friends that are Flame Knights that have never cratted events and should. I know when I was coming up for Knighthood, even after I'd gotten my Masterhood, I would get the comment, and it wasn't even that I had never autocratted an event, because I'd autocratted that day event, but it was, he's never autocratted a weekend event. Well, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry I don't meet your imaginary bar, whatever. I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus, but it's also like, I've heard this from multiple people about multiple people. The Dame Tie-Dye, who unfortunately is no longer with us, I don't know if she started it, but she did a lot of work on the State of Amtgard report. On basically our kind of version of a census.
Yep.
Seeing how our park healths were doing, our kingdom healths were doing, our retention was doing. That's not autocrating an event. I don't know if she ever autocrated an event and she was a Flame Knight. And I think that's great. I don't think there's anything in this game really that you should have to do to get a Masterhood or Knighthood or a thank you for. Even like Warlord and Sword Knight, like, we kind of, there's the culture around it where it's, you have to win, these kind of tournaments. Well, our kingdom, or our rules don't say it has to be winning these one-on-one tournaments. I think it'd be cool if there was, you got some of your awards or even your Masterhood from winning like 2-man tournaments. I think, and people are like, oh, well, what about one person carrying another person? Well, one person's not really going to carry another person in a tournament like that, or they're going to lose.
Well, and especially 3 times now.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm getting my crappy butt drug across the finish line 3 times, I'm probably not getting drugged too much.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think it's okay to step out of these boxes and comfort zones that these aspects of our society have built around themselves. In arts and sciences, I don't think you should ever have to win a Dragon Master to be a Serpent Knight. I don't think you should ever have to enter into an arts and sciences competition to get an award. When I was first a monarch of anything, I was monarch of our park back in St. Louis. And I think most of, if not all of the A&S awards I gave out were for people who made stuff and award around and never entered it. Because you shouldn't have to. I eventually want to run for a Kingdom Regent, and I want to run Dragon Master. Because I have to run Dragon Master, but I want to run it as the kind of that showcase style that I had talked about on your Facebook thread, where you can only enter maybe 1 to 3 things or whatever, but the judges come up, you have 5 minutes to be like, this is what I made, this is how I made it, these are why I made these creative decisions that I did. Because one thing, so I think is back onto the subject of non-standard flame things. 2 people up here, Dama Katrina and Sir Piper, they ran a judging symposium. So you weren't entering items you made to be judged. You were showing off things that you made at different skill levels to inform people how to judge them.
I love that. So
we had people that were, and especially for non-standard mediums, because you see, and not, I'm not disparaging anything, but you do see a lot of garb. You see a lot of maybe like leather and woven belts. You see a lot of chainmail done. We had people that were, doing some of the, doing garb and plastic, which I think is still can be harder to judge. It's one of the less known judging things.
What do you do if you get someone like Dame Scry, who we had on here, who's doing stained glass?
Exactly.
Like one of those things that you've never seen before.
Yeah. Like I watch a lot of random shit. So I at least I feel like I watch and read a lot of stuff. So I kind of know enough to be dangerous, but I would still want to go up to that person and ask them things. We had people teaching like how to judge photography, how to judge woodworking, how to judge clay molding. I did some blacksmithing stuff, all sorts of things. And kind of along those lines, it should be okay to ask somebody who entered about their thing. If you don't understand part of their write-up, maybe go ask them. Or even if you do understand their write-up, but there's something that you just have a question about, I don't think it should have to be anonymous. I think we should trust our judges to have the integrity to judge fairly, or they shouldn't be our judges.
The anonymous stuff, I am a hyper competitive person, and my Masterhood came off the back of tournament wins for A&S. Mm-hmm. All of that said, as someone who loves tournaments, I don't think you should ever have to enter anything to get Masterhood. That was just my chosen avenue because that's how I enjoy the game. We need names from our judges. The populace needs to be able to hold your judges accountable, and we need to be able to go back and look at if there is something, there's an instance in the Rising Winds, an issue came up, someone accused a judge of cheating. Because we had our names on the last 6 tournaments that person entered, we were able to go back and pull all the scores and say, look, if it is cheating, it's not a pattern of cheating. Because we've got all of these different things, and you can go back, and it keeps your judges honest, because it's not just anonymous judge 1, anonymous judge 2. And one of the things that the SCA does pretty regularly that is becoming more and more regular in Amtgard is the fair type, where you get a 6x6 table, bring whatever you want, set it up. Certain items can be judged. Certain items don't have to be. It's a 6-hour window. You hang out. People from the populace can come and chat with you. The judges come and chat with you. Generally, there's a people's choice vote that goes on with it as well. Like, I think those type of interactions with the judges are what, as someone who entered a lot, when I went to the judge after the tournament, because I knew their name and I could say, hey, you said this, can you explain it more? That's what you need to get better. Not good job, finish your seams better. And that's all you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And because you could also even then maybe you go to a judge and they say, I marked you off for this. And maybe they were wrong. Because again, our judges don't know how to do everything. And so I think if you're a judge and someone comes to you with that, again, it's okay to be wrong.
Yep.
If you mark something off because of what you thought it was and it wasn't, and then an entrant comes and talks to you, and it's obvious you have a good faith conversation, yeah, maybe go change your score or something. I think that's absolutely okay. I love it. It just sounds lovely. Like the table was like the table and just people coming in and out and talking and having a good time.
Artists love to talk about their junk.
Oh,
right.
Oh, yeah. It just sounds delightful. I know we do, we, for our tournaments out here, we'll do like Judges' Choice Awards. So, you'll obviously have like your first, second, third winner, and then maybe best owl, best dragon, best garber. And then we'll do like Judge's Choice. And if there's a theme, maybe like best theme item. It's also fun to have just more things to give out to people to say, hey, you did something cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I like, so my ideal, I've talked about this on a couple, I'm going to keep shouting it. I'm going to keep shouting it till it happens. I would love for the tournaments to have specific goals for each one. So if, for instance, one tournament every year is best of the best, enter one item. One tournament of the year is go real broad, see who knows the most amount of skills. And then one tournament a year could be this fair where you just, here's what I've worked on this year. And it's that different flavors for different people. Some people are going to like, because like currently most Amtgard A&S is one type of tournament. And that rule set might change slightly between tournaments. But if you really don't like A&S tournaments right now, you're kind of out of luck. Like, there's not very many other options. So if we had these different tournaments with different options to win, I think we would get more people participating in these various tournament styles.
Oh yeah, I think that would be, great. One thing that I heard from a friend of mine, Leal, they were saying it was sort of a tiered style. So you could enter an item just to be looked at, and you're not going to get score, you're not going to get feedback, but people can, you can get your work out there and people can see it. And then maybe like there was like 3 tiers to it, and it was like the next tier was maybe you get like a little bit of feedback,
but no scores.
Then the next one is you get a score and maybe even more detailed feedback on it to kind of like ease your way into it. I think and again, kind of like with the try, as a rose, try different things. If you're a region or you're going to run, an A&S tournament, try different styles. It doesn't just have to be, a scored judged competition. Mm-hmm. It can be whatever you want it to be. Like I said, single item, best of the best. I think those are great.
Fun. Those are great. Fun.
Because maybe you've had this one thing that you've been working on for a year and it's finally done, and it comes up and it's a Dragon Master, and to qualify for Dragon Master you have to enter like 5 items in 3 categories or whatever.
Well, and best of the best is cool too, because at least in the Rising Winds, you get 15 minutes to present your item. And so some people don't enjoy they get nervous and that's a turnoff for them. Mm. But for me, I enjoy it because I get to then educate my judges. Like if you're on one of those unique mediums, that most people don't know about, you then get to perform, tell the judges why and how you made the thing that you made. And then they get to ask questions, and it's this dialogue back and forth. And then there are no scores in it. It's a bracket, and then they pick which item. So it is super subjective, and I get that. But I like the being able to talk to my judges and say, look, I know you're going to say this scene should be this. I did it this way because. And being able to talk about that with them is a really cool format that you don't get that often.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the best of the best. I think it's pretty fun.
Oh yeah. Just kind of all this overall for anyone watching this, be creative, put yourself out there, just try something. If it doesn't work, cool. You tried it. Now it doesn't work. And maybe you try it. It doesn't work. And you figure out how to rework it so it does. You shouldn't be afraid. In an ideal Amtgard, you shouldn't be afraid to try anything. And if you're someone who's out here watching this and you're going to judge someone for what they're trying, then shame on you. Honestly, I get it. This game has come a long way. I've only been in it 17 years because there are people that have been playing since the beginning. There are people that have been playing Amtgard still since day one.
You dated yourself when you said Orc 2.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Orc 2, the tail end of V6. Right. But the game's come a long way over the last, 3 odd decades that it's been around. And I feel like at this point, if you're not encouraging the players around you, why are you here? What's the point? If you're not, a conversation I had about Knighthood the other day was everyone who's coming up the path under you should ideally be able to do it faster. Any of this, it took me 10 years to get Knighthood, so it should take you 10 years to get Knighthood. Well, no, if it takes them 10 years to get Knighthood, you're a shitty teacher.
Yep.
And I get, sometimes there are reasons why life happens, things happen. There are reasons in all the different paths. It might take you longer or whatever at the same time. But in an ideal situation, the people that are coming up under me, I want them to get to where I am faster than I did because they should be learning from me. They shouldn't be falling into the same pitfalls. I started in 2003, 2004. I got knighted in 2017. So 16, 17 or 13, 14 years, somewhere around there for me to get from day one Amtgard to get knighted. Now I had my college kind of break and whatever, but it is what it is. And then my soon to be knighted Squire Fintroll, he's getting knighted in January in TD, Knight of the Crown.
Well deserved.
Very well deserved. He has been playing for, like half that time. So I'm proud of him. He's got his drive and stuff, but, and I'm proud of him for what he does. But, you should also be proud of yourself because you've helped this person get to where they're good, where they are, faster than you did.
Yep.
So,
yeah, if the people who are coming up, so Masterhood is often described as a mountain, right? You're climbing the mountain and you're climbing the mountain, then you get to the top and you turn back. I've had my Masterhood for like 3 years now. And I am looking at that climb and going, that climb is stupid. Like, I really enjoyed it. I'm a hyper competitive person, but man, that climb was way more difficult than it needed to be. And I think now I am really enjoying reaching back down and helping people climb up the mountain quicker than it took me. And you brought up Leal earlier, where to my knowledge, was the first person ever knighted or ever mastered in our game for woven belts for my medium.
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, and now Leal has it. I'm trying to think of who else. We have Alex. Corin is at 9. I mean, we have
Crystal Groves. Yeah,
I know, and we have a lot of high level awards now in this, and it has been incredibly. I don't know. My heart swells when I look at these players who are getting it faster than me, who I think are on the verge of being better than me. They'll never be better, but on the verge of, yeah. Right. My pride won't let me say it. But it makes my heart swell to see these players taking, like, I have passed on the torch and they are doing better than me. That's the goal.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And we probably don't have enough time to get like fully into it, but Masterhood is fine by itself. If you want to be a master and you don't want to be a knight, cool.
100%.
Like I said, I'm GMOK right now, and one of our candidates who is a master, I talked to them. They don't want to be a knight. Cool.
That's what we want. Yeah. We need more of that.
Yeah. Like, I think, that's absolutely acceptable. And I told her, I was like, I can't wait to see you at an event wearing your Masterhood, and I can point to that hood and be like, hey, this new player who's asking about things, see that over there? Mm-hmm. This white belt means knighthood. That hood over there, that means a master. That means they're at the top of their craft.
And they should be equally as praised, in my opinion.
100%.
The master... Short, we're at an hour 45. Short tangent. I wish our masters were still I wish that our master skill would stay the same. I wish that we would bring knighthood down to like 7 or 8 orders and make it more about character of quality of the person, and then make masterhood still the peak of skill, because right now it's just a stepping stone to get to knighthood, and that doesn't mean as much. I would rather get more knights of the quality that we want and still have them be required to know the game well enough to direct people to who they need to direct them to, while then elevating masterhood even more, because a lot of people will get knighthood and then they'll be done. And then that makes masterhood more rare, and then it becomes a bigger deal, and you can spread it that way. I would love that.
I have seen that. I've seen that exact discussion, going on before. I don't know what the right answer is, or if there's a right answer. I think
it's a hard one.
I wouldn't have a problem trying that. There's been discussions for clarifying even just our current rules of, does somebody have to be a master to get knighted? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no, because the way it's worded in our rules is recommended criteria is you have to have 10 to get your masterhood, but our rules do not expressly say you have to be a master to be a knight.
And there's nothing in the rules stopping the monarch from going, okay, this person's a master, then here you go. You know what I mean? Like the way that our system is set up, if
Kapora wise, maybe, but not rules wise. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. If someone's at 8 and this monarch really wants this person to be a knight, there's nothing stopping that monarch from going, here's 9, 10 masterhood. Now I can knight them.
Yeah.
Like it is. It can happen. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened.
Well, I mean, going back to to Sir Wisp, he was knighted. Well, actually, I think this was before standardization was the way it was. I think he was given Masterhood at 7 smiths. And before he was knighted. So, he didn't even have, he wasn't even a 10 Masterhood and then, knighthood. But yeah, I like, it's one of those things where it's in the rules, and it's also one of those things of, is this my opinion because I've been around in the game long enough where it doesn't matter as much to me as it did when I was younger, and balancing that with how do the younger people, the newer people in our game, I say younger just as a newer, but how do those people in our game feel about these things too? So maybe someone only getting to 8 and then being knighted is fine with me, but I'm already a knight. You're already a knight, so that's fine with us. But how do the people that are still making that climb feel about that? And that's been a big discussion in especially like the sword path recently with like the work that we did for Orders of the Warrior and Battle Game Night and
another kind of creative way, creative way for service. Look at the stuff Lightning's been doing and all the info gathering.
Oh yeah. She's just been doing a killer job at everything. She will, if she listens to this, she will probably, blush and turn away from her computer screen or whatever and be embarrassed. But, Lightning is a phenomenal individual for our game. She is an asset to her game and her kingdom. And I am, I'm lucky to get to work with her on projects and, not saying that we're a team. Yeah. We do, because she's the chair of the awards evaluation committee right now. So a lot of that information gathering has gone into that. And she's a pleasure to work with. She does so much good work and analysis and stuff.
I agree.
And a lot of people do. She's also like not the only person who's gathered stuff and looked at stuff for the game. I think Promethea's done, her own survey stuff. Casca, I think, has also done survey stuff around the game, for just different kinds of, metrics for aspects of it, but it all just helps to feed in to a bigger picture of what makes up our game, who makes up our game, where our game has been, where our game is going, where our players want our game to go, where our game needs to go.
The hardest part in my mind of making that change would be the phrasing that is, we focus more on what we want our knights to be, so we can then focus on those people and we give them that at 8th. That would require our game to define what they want from their knights, which is going to be so diverse and so different based on every person you talk to, let alone every kingdom you talk to. Setting down, and I know this has been, Randall's been talking about this for a decade now, the idea of holding knights to the higher standard. Should knights have a different code of conduct? What do we want our knights to do? I think standardizing all of that is the harder thing than bringing the bar down. The bar,
yeah. And some kingdoms do have a written out code of conduct for their knights. They have their own kingdom knights code, and I think that maybe that's an option. Maybe Archipora or the rules just say every kingdom's circle of knights has to have their own knights code of ethics that they go by, and leave it at that. That could work. Maybe their ROP says, this is what knighthood means to this game. Like you said, everyone has kind of a different idea of what they want out of a knight. I think there are some kind of universal things. I think people want knights to be approachable. They want knights to be leaders. Like really, knighthood kind of is another office, really, in and of itself. Yep. I mean, you're the one that should be guiding people in your disciplines. And I think it's not unfair to say maybe you don't have to be the best at it. You have to be good at it. I think, say, getting up to your 8th is still, you're really good at it.
And maybe not even 8th. I just want a kingdom level award. If that's 7, if that's 8, I want you to be honored at a high enough level that the kingdom recognizes that you're good at it. Whatever that happens to be in your kingdom.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, it's, people that are nice to be basically approachable leaders that are helping, like I said, helping new people climb that mountain.
Yep.
I'd say that's, if I had to say, a universal Knights thing, that'd probably be about what it would be.
I would agree. Whenever I am talking with my squires, my underbelts, or new players who ask me why I'm wearing my chain, I say, look, if you have any questions out here, you find someone in a white belt and they will help you. That's what I want our Knights.
One thing that we did out here that I really liked, and when we get back to events, I'm hoping we keep doing it, that we, I believe it was Tyrell, Sir Tyrell. I can't remember. I feel bad. I can't remember if it's Sir Tyrell or Dame Tyrell that she goes by. But one of our Knights out here, Tyrell, gave us the suggestion that I think she got from somewhere else also, because I'm not trying to steal anybody's ideas, but it was have lanyards with basically for all the Knights to wear that say, hey, ask me anything. It literally says ask me anything on it. And the flip side, it says, maybe come back in 5 minutes or whatever, because you're talking to somebody about something. But just even more than just the white belt, a literal sign around your neck that says, hey, come ask me a question.
The Walmart ask,
right? Ask me about Amtgard.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So we are almost at the 2-hour mark. So I've got one kind of wrap up fun question that I like to ask all of my guests, or I am starting to ask all of my guests. You're I think the 4th or 5th one I've asked this. Okay. Your area of Amtgard, they can be flame or crown or both, your choice. You are building a Mount Rushmore. Can be the best, could be the most influential, could be whatever criteria you want. Who are you putting on your Mount Rushmore for your area of Amtgard?
Oh, goodness. So of the people that I've known, I'd say people that have been, if I was going to do people that have been influential to me, let's go with that. So I would have to put my knight, Sir Conrad. Sometimes it was influential and this is what you do. Sometimes it was influential. Okay, don't do that thing. Don't do what Chris just did. And he would agree with me on that.
Equally as important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, nobody's perfect. But so I'd have to put Conrad on there because I would not be the person I am today in game and out without that man. I would put probably put Sir Goldcrest. Not even put Goldcrest. And probably Sir Michael Hammer of God. Man, that's a tough one.
I know. Getting to the last one's always hard.
There's just so many good people out there. Good gravy. I'm just gonna leave it at those three.
All good.
It's just those are probably three of the people that I've looked up to the most in this game.
I like it
for different things.
My favorite one so far, when I have asked every warlord that I have asked this to, all of them have put their fourth one as Brennan because it's going to make people mad. So they always get to that. They're like, okay, the top three are pretty easy. Who's the four? Oh, Brennan, because it's going to make people mad.
If I was going to put someone other that might make people mad, I would put Wisp up there.
I could see it.
Well, it was his squire that was the person that was suing Amtgard over the trademark rights, and he was in favor of that. So
I gotcha. See, as far as the games, I have played in one or two Wisp games, I think, and I enjoyed them. And so, man
was a fabulous event runner. He could design an event and run games. Like, he was a master smith, if there ever was one. And, without being able to help out in his Noblanders and in events that he ran, like him and M-Hog started Keep on the Borderlands together. So, probably two super influential things in the Midwest, if not the whole game, he was involved in. So
I love it. So last question for you, Sir Fuzz. anything that you have on your heart you want to chat about that I didn't ask, or any events coming up, anything you want to plug as we close out here?
I don't really have anything super to plug. I mean, like I said, my Squire's getting knighted in January in TD in St. Louis. If you're around and you want to come have a good time and hang out, cool. We're out on the East Coast. Not our Kingdom event coming up. We've got one coming up in November. But in April, we're going to be running our Feast of Fools event, and it is going to be Dwarven Games themed. Cool. So if you want to travel out to the East Coast to a Dwarven Games themed event, should be a good time. Probably going to be a night or two there. I fully admit I stole this game from friends in TD that I helped run it with also there, but good combat stuff, good non-combat stuff. It'll be a good time. And then if I'd say one other thing to plug is go do something nice for another Amtgarder. Go encourage somebody. Go, even if, that new person gets a kill, give them a high five, tell them they did a good job. You see a piece of work somebody's doing, tell them it's looking good, that they're improving. Go out and do random acts of kindness in this world, in this game. Because if we don't encourage our new players and even our veteran players, then we're not going to have a game to play anymore.
I 100% agree with that one. Do what you can to make the game a more fun environment for everybody else, because that's how you have the most fun, and that's how the game keeps growing. Yeah. So with that, Sir Fuzz, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you coming on. Had a good time. It was a good time. It was a good one. I'll close with this. I think for your Dwarven games, you have to have the best Dwarven beard contest. Let people know now so they can grow them out. I think that'd be pretty fun.
We did. Crystal Groves does have a tradition of doing epithets. And I did win best beard one year. So.
I like it. So with that, everybody, thank you, viewers, for hanging out with us today on this episode of The Archive. I'm St. Godric. That's Sir Fuzz. We'll see you next time.